If you didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s, you really have no idea how influential Howard Stern used to be. His self imposed nickname, King of All Media, that was not hyperbole. That was not some exaggeration. Now, usually I'm not big on self imposed nicknames, but back then, Howard Stern had every reason to call himself that. It's kind of sad when you think about it that his legacy is going to be forgotten. Most people under the age of 30, they have no idea who Howard Stern is. Sure, maybe they've heard his name, but they don't understand his legacy. They don't understand the impact he used to have on pop culture. I think it was last year when Howard Stern was complaining about NBA players not recognizing him in Madison Square Garden. You know why they didn't recognize him? They have no idea who he is. Over the last decade, Howard Stern has become completely irrelevant. And I think that's why he applied to be a deacon at Woke United Methodist. I think that's why Howard Stern completely turned his back on his own audience. I guess in his eyes, it was better to be accepted by the shitfucks than be accepted by the people who made him into a star. For the first time in months, maybe even years, Howard Stern yesterday, he finally managed to generate headlines throughout the media. But once again, the mainstream media, they are focusing on the wrong story. Once again, the media is focusing on something that Howard Stern said that furthers their own twisted narrative, instead of focusing on the admission that he made on his show yesterday morning. There were actually several rare instances yesterday morning on the Howard Stern show. The first, he actually showed up to work. Sirius is paying this dude tens of millions of dollars every year to work about 100 days a year. And when he does show up to work, no one is listening. No one is paying attention. Sirius, they don't release their ratings, but I have been told that Howard Stern's audience has been dwindled down to the low six figures. He's lucky to have 200,000 people listening to his show. Now, you got to remember, during the prime of his radio career, Howard Stern had 20 million listeners. Now, the second rarity yesterday morning was Howie managing to capture the attention of the media. Over the weekend, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, she was kicked out of a theater in Denver. According to deacons at Woke United Methodist, Lauren Boebert, she is one of the 10 most wanted normal people in the country. She has been charged with multiple violations of the woke commandments. These are very, very serious charges here. Lauren Boebert, she supports the Second Amendment and doesn't want public school teachers giving your kindergartner gender-affirming care. Over the weekend, she was kicked out of a theater in Denver because, well, to be perfectly honest with you, she was kicked out because she was acting like a horny teenager. She was vaping in the theater, which I have no problem with vaping. My vape is actually sitting right here beside me. But she was also feeling frisky. Perhaps she was feeling nostalgic, like she was a teenager again. She was on a date with a man, which is obviously another violation of the woke commandments. Men and women, they are not allowed to fornicate with each other. If Lauren Boebert was busted in a theater getting familiar with another set of hooters, the deacons would call that progress. But since she was copping a fill on the cucumber, it's called disgusting behavior. KC, I thought the cucumber was the preferred vegetable at Woke United Methodist. Yeah, it is, when it's involving dudes. Deacons, they don't want their women consuming the cucumber. The woke wiener, it's off limits to the ladies. They are only served the peach in catering. Now, 20 years ago, this video of Lauren Boebert, it would have been wanker spanking material for Howard Stern. He would have invited her on his show and asked her to ride the Sibian. But for the new and improved Howie, this video is disgusting. It's disgraceful. I saw her cleavage. Ew. Listen for yourself.
Lauren Boebert is a disgrace to this country, not because of the video. You are 100% right. Forget the politics. She's in a titty dress. If you saw the video, she's in a titty dress. She's with some dude. Looks like she's, obviously vaping, but also looks like she might be grabbing his penis during Beetlejuice. But she was wearing a tight titty dress. I've seen porn stars wear more. And this dude that she's with is playing with her titties during it. Isn't she a big morality person? And I guess, judging from the video, I hope I have the story right, they had to escort her out of a play because she can't act appropriately in a play. I mean, how did she win an election? How does a woman like that win an election? I mean, there's certain standards of like, don't lie. I mean, once you get caught lying like that, goodbye. But I got to admit, when I watch that tape, I go, God, she must be so much fun to fuck.
Now, for those of you who, like me, grew up listening to Howard Stern, do you recognize that dude? Do you recognize Howie? The Howard Stern from the 90s, he would absolutely eviscerate the modern Howie. The reason the mainstream media is focusing on that clip, it's because Howie is advocating to have Lauren Boebert removed from Congress. Why? Because she lied about vaping in the theater. Well, I'll be damned. A politician lied. That's never happened before. If all we needed to get rid of these doofus politicians was to bust them in a lie, Washington, D.C. would be empty. If Howie is so concerned about lying, how come he's not advocating for the impeachment of our fearless leader, John Biden? How many times now has Johnny B. Biden been busted in a lie? Towards the end of that clip, you heard a glimpse of the real Howard Stern, where he was fantasizing about Lauren Boebert, where he removed his Covey gloves and spanked the wanker while staring at her cleavage. Now, that was another rare instance yesterday morning, a rare glimpse of the real Howard Stern. You see, he can't be the real Howard anymore. All of his pretend friends, all of his fellow deacons at Woke United Methodist, they would accuse him of being a misogynist, or even worse, they would accuse him of being attracted to women. The overreaction to Lauren Boebert, to me, that was not the real story yesterday morning on the Howard Stern show. The real story, the real admission, was Howard Stern proudly claiming that he is woke. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the audio for you. I canceled my subscription to Sirius years ago when Howard transitioned to Howie. I can't find the audio online because no one in the mainstream media is covering the story. The only media outlet that published the story was The Hill. But over the weekend, Howie was once again home alone. Even though I don't listen to the show anymore, I do still keep up with it from time to time through Reddit forums. Apparently, there is trouble in woke paradise in the house of Howie, his future ex-wife Beth. She has grown tired of his paranoia over the Covey. They've been arguing a lot lately because Beth has the audacity to live her life. She's traveling to Paris. She's taking weekend trips with the girls. Now, obviously, this is causing some distance in their marriage. Howie is so paranoid about the Covey, he forces her to quarantine for 5 days upon returning home. By the time she is released from quarantine, she's off traveling again on another weekend trip. Sounds like a win-win to me for Beth. But over the weekend, Howie once again home alone. He was hunkered down in his basement watching videos on YouTube about himself. As he was watching, Howie began experiencing feelings of anger, feelings of rage. He was also experiencing feelings of confusion. He noticed that people kept criticizing him by describing the new and improved Howie as being woke. Howie just didn't understand. He was told by deacons at Woke United Methodist that being crowned the queen of woke media would be a good thing for his career. Howie just didn't understand why all these content creators were criticizing him for being baptized and born again. Yesterday, he explained to his dwindling audience that he was proud to be a worshiper of the woke oak tree. I'm proud to be woke, you motherfuckers. If woke means I'm anti-Trump, Orange Man bad. If woke means I support my right to transition from Howard to Howie, then I'm proud to be woke. Howie also claimed that being woke means that he is against stupidity. What? Excuse me? I thought being woke meant that you embraced stupidity. What is so intelligent about fabricating claims about mythical racism? What is so intelligent about indoctrinating young children? Speaking of the indoctrination of children, Howie is 100% supportive of that very important cause. I support kids reading about anything in school. I don't give a shit what kids read. Yeah, it's easy to say something like that when your kids are grown adults. It's easy to say that when it has no effect on you personally. Hell, nothing affects Howie personally anymore. This dude never leaves his basement. It's hard to be affected by something when you never leave your house. Howie spent the morning bathing in his luxurious woke bath, boring his listeners with his boastness of his wokeness. I love being woke. Yeah, yeah. Well, I can tell you who doesn't love Howard Stern being woke: his audience, which no longer exists. Howard Stern has never been more irrelevant than he is today. Being baptized and born again, not only did that destroy the later years of his radio career, but it absolutely destroyed his legacy. Believe it or not, Howard Stern was actually a pioneer of being woke. He's actually one of the founding members of Woke United Methodist. This transformation started back in 2013 or 2014 when he hired Marcy Turk. Now, Dr. Marcy, she is a transition specialist. She was able to successfully transition Howard to the more refined Howie. All those members of the Whack Pack, remember them? All those members of the Whack Pack with potentially offensive names, gone. Wendy was no longer allowed to be referred to as the R word. Ooh, it's so dangerous and offensive. She was now to be called Wendy the Slow Adult. Jeff the Drunk, we can't call him Jeff the Drunk anymore. That could be triggering to birthing persons who struggle with alcohol. He must now be called Jeff the Consumer of Adult Beverages. Gary the Conqueror, Gary the Conqueror. Mark the Bagger, he must now be called Mark the Grocery Store Clerk. Howard Stern allowed Marcy Turk to ruin his show and destroy his legacy. Why? Because he wanted to be more appealing. He wanted his show to be more appealing to woke celebrities. And you don't have to take my word for it. There is a 2-hour video here on YouTube of a staff meeting from the show from 2013. I've watched it. It's absolutely appalling. Throughout the video, Howard Stern openly admits that he is toning down his antics. He's toning down his behavior, his show, so it would be more appealing to sensitive celebrities. In other words, Howard Stern admitted that he would no longer be himself. One of the things that made the Howard Stern show so great was the authenticity. You can make a strong case that his show was the inspiration for reality television. The Howard Stern show was great because the Howard Stern show was real. This show stopped being real years ago. Howard Stern is a shell of his former self. This show is I think it's about 18 months away from being canceled. I think his current deal with Sirius expires at the beginning of 2025. Going into contract negotiations, Howie, he's going to threaten to retire just like he does every 3 or 4 years. But these are just empty threats. Howie will never retire because this show is all he has left. I think Sirius is going to cancel the show. How does this show benefit Sirius? Howie is no longer relevant. He no longer commands the attention of the mainstream media. He stopped boosting subscription years ago. Hell, the entire model of satellite radio is antiquated. With his bloated contract, I don't see any way that Sirius is making money off of Howie. Like I have said countless times in this video, Howard Stern has completely ruined his legacy. This dude should be remembered for being a pioneer in radio. He should have been remembered for leading the fight against the federal government for free speech. Instead, Howard Stern, he's going to be remembered for being a sellout. He's going to be remembered for the damage he did to his legacy during the last decade of his career, instead of being remembered for the 3 or 4 decades of entertainment that he gave us beforehand. But give me your thoughts. Howard Stern proudly admits to being woke. He cherishes his deacon status at Woke United Methodist. Now you tell me, who is the real Howard Stern? Was it the Howard Stern from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s? Or was all of that just an act? Is the Howie from the past 10 years the real Howard Stern? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate you guys and your continued support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.